Hello, I'm Dr. Alveda King, Director of African American Outreach with Priest for Life, and I want to talk to you about an important topic that I usually begin discussing at the beginning of every year. So in January of 2014 and moving on into February of 2014, Black History Month, and throughout the year, I'll be talking about the deception of Planned Parenthood and how they attempt and try to say that Martin Luther King Jr. would have supported their agenda. Absolutely, he would not. At priestforlife.org/African American, I have a message there, MLK and Planned Parenthood, and I would like to invite you to go over there, the website for African American Outreach at Priests for Life, and I'd like for you to look at that particular information that proves that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was pro-life. And I say this with a certainty, even though during his lifetime, Dr. King lived in a time where abortion was illegal. And so it was not something that he addressed directly as a platform, even though his father, my grandfather, Daddy King, had encouraged my parents not to abort me. My mother wanted an abortion. My daddy did not. But there was the Birth Control League in town that would later become Planned Parenthood that was teaching women, even in that day, with the Negro Project, teaching black women that you don't have to be a mother if you're not ready. As a matter of fact, you'd be a greater credit to your race if you were not having children. So we've got sterilization for you so that you don't have to bear your babies. And if you find yourself pregnant, of course, there are things that could be done to assist you in that manner. There's a procedure for mysterious female ailments. They called it a D&C back in those days. And so even if women got pregnant, or if they partook of the sterilization procedures and all of those kinds of things, there was an effort during the time that I was conceived in 1950 to reduce the Negro population. And so my mother had heard about that. She and my father were engaged. She had become pregnant. They went to their pastor, Martin Luther King Sr., and he says, you can't have an abortion. This is a little girl. I saw her in a dream 3 years ago. She has bright skin and bright red hair, and she's going to be a blessing to many people. And of course, so mother did not have that procedure for the mysterious female ailment, and Alveda King is still living in the 21st century. And so Martin Luther King Jr.'s daddy, Daddy King, was very prophetic, always on guard to make sure that the generations were allowed to be born and to come forth. As a matter of fact, one of his favorite Bible quotes was, I have been young and now I am old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. And so Martin Luther King Jr. was born into a family that valued the sanctity of life. I brought one of his quotations with me, and it came from his 1967 Christmas sermon. I'll just read it for you. The next thing we must be concerned about if we are to have peace on earth and goodwill towards men is the nonviolent affirmation of the sacredness of all human life. Man is a child of God, made in his image, and therefore must be respected as such. And when we truly believe in the sacredness of human personality, we won't exploit people, we won't trample over people with the iron feet of oppression, we won't kill anybody. And that's just not the male of our species, man, male and female. God created us. And so our personalities are sacred. Martin Luther King Jr. understood that. He stood for that. And so I really want to encourage you to know that Martin Luther King Jr. was pro-life. Planned Parenthood's efforts of trickery and deception to make people think that it's okay to abort babies or hurt women with carcinogenic birth control mechanisms, that's not good. And I think that it's very important for me to bring that message every year, and I start at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year I do everything I can to educate the population to these truths. This year, 2014, if you're seeing this in the year of 2014, on July the 2nd, there's going to be the anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. And as we remember Martin Luther King Jr. and the freedom movement of the 20th century, thinking about the things that I've said, please know that Planned Parenthood is not trying to help us as a people, not only African American people, but all all families are at risk from some of the tactics of Planned Parenthood. And so if we're really going to celebrate 50 years of the Civil Rights Act, we're going to have to recognize the sanctity of all human life, the sanctity of the human personality, and to include our brothers and sisters from the womb until natural death in that process. So that means the babies who've been conceived, that's going to be the young people, the mature adults, the elderly, the sick. Everybody's human personality is sacred. And so I just want to again encourage you to study the real legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., which would be peace and nonviolence, as you consider his relationship in the civil rights movement, and to know that the babies and their families would have been included. God bless you, Dr. Alveda King, Director of African American Outreach with Priest for Life.